Hi, you had your physics board examination today, and I'm hopeful it must have been a pleasant experience. So let us analyze the question paper. 20% of the paper falls on a difficult note. 55% of the question paper is of moderate category. And finally, 25% of the question paper is on an easier level. So, if we talk about the overall question paper, it's an application-based tricky question paper. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take you through the different sections and pinpoint some of the tricky questions and any aberrations if they are present. So let us start with section A. In section A, there were two questions. One of the question was on generation of induced EMF in a given configuration, and the second was on charge related to capacitors. Let's talk about section B. In section B, there was not much of an aberrations, and the questions were related to displacement current, distance of the closest approach, magnifying power of the compound microscope, wavelength of electron in ground state of hydrogen atom, and the like. So these are the topics that we have generally discussed time and again in our classes. Now let's talk about section C. In section C, there was a beautiful question on the connection of capacitors. So the circuit normally looks like a Wheatstone bridge, but if we carefully look the configuration, in that case we will see that it's nothing but a parallel connection of three capacitors. When you take this into account, it's easily doable. The rest part of section 3 was perfectly fine as it correlated to questions on LCR series circuit, potentiometer, amplitude modulation, electric dipole. The question on electric dipole was perfectly doable. Then you had balancing of nuclear reaction, which was icing on the cake. Anyone could do it. Beta decay was a bit tricky. Angle of minimum deviation, a question was there which was based on angle of minimum deviation. So when you solve this problem, it had a bit of tricky tinge. The question on galvanometer was perfectly doable. Now let's talk about section D, the value based question. This question was very tricky because a student should have a relative idea that the refractive index of plastic is lesser as compared to glass, and that would account for the answer when asked from the perspective of lens maker's formula. Now let's talk about section E. Section E that accounts for the maximum possible marks, that is 15 marks. So the first question was basically from AC that took care of either generator or transformer. Now the problems that were correlated to these two topics were perfectly doable. Now let's talk about the second question. The second question was from polarization, and the OR part was from Young's double slit experiment. The numerical in the Young's double slit experiment was very tricky. And coming to the last question of the physics paper that was based on current electricity, the circuit, especially let me talk a bit about the circuit. So if the students are clear about the concept of symmetry, it will hardly take 2 minutes for any student to get through. Now, there are two key takeaways from the question paper. As I have been repeatedly emphasizing all these points in our classes, any student who has taken care of the last 5-year question and has a proper application perspective must be in a position to sail through with flying colors in the physics examination. The second point is that you have a number of upcoming examinations like mathematics, like chemistry. So it would be a kind of imperative that you please refer to the last 5-year question. So wish you all the best for your upcoming examinations. Thank you.